this morning, when I look around and see Deacon Brian and Sister Brian, husband and wife, participate in reading the devotion. Young people, that's a good example for you. That's a good example for you. Amen. Watch your association. Connect yourself with someone that is strong, someone that knows the Lord, and to lead you in the right direction. Keep your hand in God's hand. I pray that this family will ever stay together. I pray that God will bless you. Then unite yourself together years and years to come. And as the songwriter said, thank God His goodness to you. Which means thank of God's goodness to you. When waves of perfection sweep over the globe, and light, sunlight is hidden from you, and ever you are headed to break off the flame. Just think of His goodness to you. Just think of His goodness to you. Well, yeah, think of His goodness to you. Yeah. The storm over you, over these sweet, He is able to keep. Oh, thank God His goodness to you.
While she was singing, I thought of a little song that I'm sure all of us remember.
Yes.
And the little song said, go tell it on the mountain.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it that Jesus Christ is born. Amen. All of us every now and then have to tell it.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes I catch myself when the preacher is preaching and I have gone to get ready to go home, I find myself telling it.
All right.
Because the Spirit is so strong sometimes till you can't hold your peace.
Yeah.
So we're going to sing just a little stanza. I want you to open your mouth like you're in the Lord's house.
Yes.
And it don't become the Lord's house until we get ready. It can be a gift tomorrow, but it's the Lord's house when Christians walk in it. good to our families.
Yes.
You see our mothers see.
Praise God.
God has been good to us. You see my daddy sitting over there. God has been good to all of us. So we need to tell him. We need to give them thanks. God, tell it on the
in the valley down there, come on the mountain. Near the top of it.
Praise God. Give it honor to God. Ministers, deacons, officers, and members of the 6th Avenue Baptist Church. And greetings to the Bryant and Haynes clan. It's a pleasure to be back this year. Praise God. And see some new faces that we didn't see last year. Some are missing. I'm going to try to bring you, again, a little brief history of our family. It's going to be somewhat of a reiteration, but it's important that our young people understand the beginnings of our family. Cokie Haynes was born in 1884 in New Brockton, Alabama, to Lilton and Jenny Wilkerson. She was the youngest of 12 children, who included sisters Josephine, Mary Jane, Maddie, and brothers George, Matt, Jim, Roscoe, Cleveland, Harvey, Paul Herbert, and Bobby. In the early 1900s, Cokie married Albert Haynes of Brundage, Alabama. They first lived in Coffee County and had 6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl. They were in descending order of birth: Harvey, who died at an early age; Rayfield and Francis, born in Enterprise, Alabama; O.B., born in Black, Alabama; U.L., and the youngest, James Otis, also born in Enterprise, Alabama. Rayfield married Mary Critton of River Fall, Alabama, and took up residency in Central Florida. U.L. married Francis Flossie DeBose. They're both deceased. They had 1 son, Curtis. Curtis fathered a son, Jake, who married Janice Brennan. Curtis married Mary Frances Smith, and they had 3 children, Sylvia, Harold, and Gretchen. Harold has 2 children, a daughter and a son. O.B. married Rosie Johnson of Norma, Alabama, and after some years, they left Florala and took up residency in Clearwater, Florida. Otis remains a bachelor. Their daughter, Frances, married James W. Bryant. They raised Henry, Louise, Frederick, James Franklin, Hazel, Jenny Ruth, Marinelle, and Diane. 1 child, Johnny, died in infancy. Louise married Edward Jackson, Jr., and had a son, Edward Jackson III. Edward is married to Emma Grace Brooks of Florala, Alabama, and they have 2 children, a son, Edward Lamar, and a daughter, Canessa. James Franklin Bryant moved to Jersey City, New Jersey in 1954, and later married Gladys Hunt of Jersey City, New Jersey. They bore 2 children, George, who is now deceased, and Richard, who resides in Jersey City. Hazel married James Lee. Jenny married Robert Land of Florala, Alabama. They now reside in Detroit, Michigan, and have 3 children, Marjorie, Gregory, and Nicole. Marinelle united with Marion Williams of Flowersview. They have 3 children, Cedric,
Corey, and Cicely. For several years, Marinell and family lived in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and they now reside in Decatur, Georgia. The marriage of Diane to Clifford Curry resulted in 2 children, Charles and Tioka. Frederick and Henry remained bachelors. Cokie was a member of the 6th Avenue Baptist Church, a diligent church worker, an Eastern Star worthy matron, a field missionary, and president of the Ladies' Aid Society and Ladies' Aid and Missionary Society number 41. And really, at least for all of my childhood, she was a Sunday school superintendent. For 45 years, Frederick tells me. Her children, in turn, are involved in church work. Rayfield, UL, and OB were all deacons, and Rayfield entered into the ministry, and he's here with us today. Francis, another Eastern Star worthy matron, and a graduate of Selma University, holds many notable positions in church, which included, pardon me, let me repeat that, held many notable positions in church, which included the presidency of the Women's Convention of the Geneva District. Illness has forced her to resign from all but the presidency of the Ladies' Aid and Missionary Society number 41. Elbert predeceased Cokie in death, and Cokie passed December 12, 1964. Ida Lloyd Bryant Hutchison was born July 9, 1888 in Elba, Alabama, to Mr. and Mrs. Charlie Lloyd. She had 10 sisters and brothers: Lula, Leela, Bama, Caroline, Maggie, Willie, Charlie, Gussie, who died at an early age, Wesley, and Nancy. In the early part of this century, Ida married James Bryant and bore 4 children: Ruth, James, Naomi, and J.C. Ruth and Naomi are now deceased. Ruth married Clifford Horn and had 4 children. Eddie, now deceased, Clifford Jr., Andrew, and Ida Ruth. Clifford Jr. married Selena Franklin and had 1 son, Joe. They now reside in Gary, Indiana. Andrew, now living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, married J.C. Bowers. They raised 1 daughter. Andrew has 1 son, Tommy. Eddie, now deceased, united with Hattie Harris, and the marriage of Ida to Donald Johnson resulted in 1 daughter, Paula. They are stationed in Japan. Naomi Bryant married Simpson Williams. They had a daughter, Martha. Naomi later married Laney Ward, but there were no children from this union. Martha united with David Hughes of Crestview, Florida. They have 1 daughter, Monique. James Bryant married Susie Green.